All right, great. So we have Troy Matthews, and you're with Survata. And maybe if at first you could give us a little bit of information about your company.
Sure, yeah. Survata is a startup market research firm in San Francisco, California. Um, we run online surveys for clients that range from anywhere from individuals to other startups to corporate clients. We run surveys just gauging consumer interest on a wide variety of topics.
Cool. So
Yeah.
in particular, we're going to be talking about this survey you guys did that you sent over to us on the religious affiliation and how it relates to belief in extraterrestrial life. And what made you all decide to do this survey?
Yeah. Well, kind of for our blog that we've been running, we like to do stories that are tied to the news or more general interest topics. So just anything that we think would be interesting to gauge by different demographic. Um, I actually had a personal interest kind of in this topic. I think it would be a
Cool.
cool thing to run. But yeah, our kind of mindset in running things for the blog is just things that kind of show off our services and things that we think will provide interesting information.
Cool. And I think you did come up with some interesting information. So you
Yeah.
surveyed nearly 6,000 Americans.
Uh-huh.
37% said they believed in extraterrestrial life, 21% said no way, and 42% said I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then we'll drill down into the religious side here in a second. But was there anything in here that was particularly surprising to you?
Um, I wasn't too surprised. If anything, I think maybe the I'm not sure category was a little high. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I intentionally phrased the question asking whether you believe in the existence of extraterrestrial life rather than phrasing it as like, do extraterrestrials exist? Just because obviously someone like reading that would like, well, I don't know personally, but you're able to say at least definitively whether you believe it or not. So I was a little surprised that it was skewed that amount to people who weren't sure. But other than that, I thought they were pretty reasonable results.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting that 42%, even though you're just asking if they believe,
Yeah,
they're not even ready to commit that far.
right, yeah.
So, which is interesting, but it is, I thought what was interesting when we drill down to the religion, you have a category of other. In this category, so these were people who, I guess, didn't want to say what religion they affiliated with, or they didn't feel like they fit into any of these categories.
Correct. Yeah. Well, we had a I prefer not to answer option, and an other in addition to that. So these were people that were religious but didn't fit into any of the other categories.
Okay, so like maybe Buddhist, because I don't see this in the
Yeah.
list, or
Yeah.
Sikh or something like that.
Correct.
Out of that group, about how many people do you know fit in that group? Just because the results there were pretty interesting.
Oh, how many people would fit into the other group?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Was it a lot, do you know? And the only
Um,
reason I ask is because 62% of those said they believed, and only 11% said no way on that one. Kind
right.
of,
Yeah. Well, we don't have any specifics as to what their religious background was. If they
yeah.
marked other, all we have is that it's not one of those other choices.
Yeah, so that was a big difference. And
Yeah.
then when we go down the list, the atheists and the agnostics, and this is kind of interesting because a lot of times I think people would think of these people as more maybe scientific, maybe more contemporary in thought, but
Mhm.
55% said yes, 15%, pretty low percent said no, and then 30% not sure.
Yeah.
So those were pretty interesting numbers.
Yeah. Definitely.
Especially in that, yeah, that's a large number, 55%. But I mean, it makes sense in that we have so much coming out these days in the news, especially with related to what NASA's doing
Hmm.
on Mars and otherwise, and Kepler, and more evidence that at least the possibility exists. We're getting
Right.
closer and closer.
Yeah.
So Muslims was the next. They 44% said yes, 23% no, and then 33 not sure. That's interesting. And then we go to Jewish, 37% believe, 31% no way, and then 32 not sure. That kind of, which is interesting is not sure always remains around 30%, but this was the biggest leap on the no way when it came to the Jewish. Did you have any like other feedback?
No, it was as simple
Okay.
as it was portrayed in the article. No notes or any free response type questions, just selecting from the choices we provided.
And then the rest kind of similar. Hindu, 36%, 27% said no, 37% I'm not sure. Then Christians were the lowest, interesting enough. 32% said yes, 33 no, and 35 not sure. And then you broke down the Christians upon their different denominations. Eastern Orthodox being the most believing, 41%. Saying they believe 27, no, 32, not sure. And then on the bottom end of that scale would be Baptists at only 25% believing, 40% no way, which is a pretty wide gap, and then 30% not sure.
Yeah.
So I guess that would tell us there that for some reason in whatever maybe related to doctrine or something like that, Baptists are the most not to believe in this in extraterrestrial life.
Right, yeah.
Have you anecdotally gotten any ideas about why any of these things might be that way?
Well, I guess just anecdotally, from kind of my like religious, like what I know about different religious beliefs, just that it's kind of, as I mentioned in the post, kind of at odds with some traditional Christian teachings. So I guess just anecdotally, I would assume those who kind of adhere to a more by the letter kind of account of biblical teachings or religious views would kind of be less likely to affirm the existence of extraterrestrial life or something like that, which I think was supported by the results. That's kind of my thoughts going into the survey.
Yeah, and I guess finally, have you gotten any sort of feedback? What's the feedback been like?
Feedback kind of not too much surprise as to the results of it, but people have definitely been finding it interesting and kind of wanting to fill in the blanks of why a certain group would think a certain way in comparison to others or things like that. But yeah, it's gauged it's spurred a pretty good amount of interest.
Yeah, it is interesting in that. I'm not sure if you were aware, Huffington Post did kind of a similar survey recently, and they found around 50% believed, and maybe this would indicate some of the makeup of the religious affiliations of some of those people they might have surveyed. What are your beliefs when it comes to extraterrestrial life? If you're willing to share that.
Sure, yeah. I would mark that I believe in the existence of extraterrestrial life. Just given kind of the information we've gotten recently on the vastness of our universe, and that kind of thing, just sort of by probability, it kind of works out to be kind of plausible.
What about the stories of extraterrestrials possibly visiting the Earth?
Yeah, well, I'm not too well read on those types of incidences, so I wouldn't be too good of a judge on that. But I would say I'd be open to kind of learning about it and thinking about it with an open mind.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot again for the survey. It's really interesting information, helps out people interested in this topic such as we are, and it was great talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
If you have a UFO sighting or something you would like to report to Open Minds, you can go to our website at openminds.tv and click the contact button to send us your request. Or you can email us at contact@openminds.tv. You can also call us at 1-877-UFO-0110. That's 1-877-836-0110.